All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dana Balicki, and I'm an engagement strategist with Move the Crowd, which is an entrepreneurial training company for conscious entrepreneurs. Good. I heard your music in the background, and I thought maybe we were just going to get very meditative tonight, which I know we will. So I'm an engagement strategist with Move the Crowd, like I said, entrepreneurial training company for conscious entrepreneurs. And for those of you who are new, I'll just explain a little bit about who we be and what we do. And then I will hand it over to the lovely Miss Ragatis, founder, CEO, entrepreneurial soul coach, amazing lady. So Move the Crowd is not just your average training company, your entrepreneurial training company for business skills and how to grow a business. And what we do is we provide what we call inside out transformation. So this is deep mindset work partnered with leadership and business development skills to really help you up your game and make the impact in the world that you are here to make. And so our main offering, which you'll hear a little bit more about throughout the course of the evening perhaps, and then at the end, is our True Paid Good Academy. We just had an amazing mastermind. Our masterminds are biannual events. Yes, I was my very first ever mastermind that I missed, and my heart is still broken, but you can catch up on all the amazing thoughts and skills shared if you check out the hashtag on Twitter, NYC Mastermind. That's how I stayed in the loop. So we do live events like our mastermind. We have a year-long True Paid Good Academy, and this is where you get one-on-one coaching. You get a customized curriculum to meet you where you are. You get a team of cheerleaders, a community of cheerleaders, really, of amazing social entrepreneurs. I mean, there's such a robust community here that it would take me all night to sort of tease out all the different artists and activists and entrepreneurs and techies and writers and movers and shakers that are up in this community. So the other way that we meet is monthly. So you come in here into this interface and we really dig in to a theme every month. This month theme is Show Up. And we take on your biggest questions about what it means to show up. And Ra will take us through the rest of the evening, and your questions are welcome. So we've got a few questions from folks who submitted early, which you're always welcome to do. And you can use the prompts on the screen, so whether you're watching directly in Google+, or whether you're watching through our website interface, you can click right through to pose a question. And so pose them at any point, and we will take them as we get to our Q&A section. And feel free to ask follow-up questions. People often do. And if we feel like the question is really robust, we might refer you to one of our free strategic consults with one of our coaches to get more in-depth and get inside your business on all levels. So that's what we're here to do tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Miss Ragatis to lead us through and help us show up.
Thank you so much, Dana. Hey, everybody. I hope you are well. And for those of you who were with us on Saturday, woo, woo! Boy, did we have a time. Did we have a time. We closed out March in proper fashion, and we are now moving from standing up to showing up. And, you know, what I want to say at the top is that I'm really passionate about this one. Really passionate because it takes stamina and discipline to be an entrepreneur. And I don't feel like we talk enough about this in the entrepreneurial context, or we talk enough about this in the leadership world, right? Resiliency and tenacity and determination and just the things that buoy us and lift us in a way that enables us to really be alive and rocking inside of our vision. And so I am so passionate about this theme of show up this month that you are not going to get one live chat, but you are actually going to get two. And this is how it's going down. So on tonight, obviously, I'm going to lay the foundation. I'm going to set you up proper. You're going to have the opportunity to work in the context of the theme. And then we are coming back on Tuesday night, April 14th. And I am going to have True Paid Good Entrepreneur Extraordinaire, Miss Gabrielle Bernstein, with me. And we are going to go to the next level of the conversation and really break open what it takes to show up, right? So we're going to kick it off tonight. And then on April 14th, we're going to take it a little higher with a little more fire to fuel your desire. Y'all hear me? And Gabby and I have a very special announcement to make. So I'm going to say to you now, you do not want to miss this. You do not want to miss the quality of the conversation. And for those of you who do not know who Gabrielle Bernstein is, she is this spiritual teacher of the new generation. She is what we call the Marianne Williamson in Manalo Blahniks. She is a brilliant author and speaker and teacher and guide and yogi, and she is a true paid good entrepreneur, and she is a multiple New York Times best-selling author, and you just do not want to miss having Gabby in the house. So join us on April 14th, same time, same back channel. And we are going to take it to the next level in our theme of showing up. And like I said, we've got a special announcement for you. So you just, like I said, you don't want to miss it. You just don't want to miss it. So let's get into our theme tonight. And the first thing I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about, kind of frame the night for us, right? What I think the opportunity is that is available in the conversation that we're going to have tonight, right? So the first part of the opportunity is really for you to speak and acknowledge your greatest aspiration with honor and respect. Speak and acknowledge your greatest aspiration with honor and respect. The second opportunity tonight is to understand what is required when you are building and growing and birthing a big vision. What is the internal work and what is the external work that is required, right? That enables you to show up for your dream. We're going to talk a little bit about how you cultivate success through follow-up and follow-through, which is another aspect of showing up. We're going to talk about how you honor the journey of becoming, which is all about how you respect and recognize that exactly where you are is exactly where you need to be, and what it means to really honor and be present for your journey of becoming who you are, who your venture is. And then finally, we're going to talk about what it takes to develop the discipline and the stamina and the commitment to show up 1,000%, 1,000% of the time. So if you're down for that, just make some noise. But this is where we want to go in the conversation tonight. This is where we want to go. So I'm going to start with my show up story, share a little bit about kind of where I feel like things began to change for me, a pivotal moment in my own career, in my own journey. Now, if you remember back in February, which our theme for February was Wake Up, I talked a little bit about my debut theatrical project and my sort of breakdown and breakthrough around building and mounting and developing and engaging this work and bringing to bear all these resources and then doing the world premiere and seeing the video and thinking, oh my God, there's no possible way that this can be my piece, right? There's just no way that I can tour this. I mean, it was a hot, well, I said it before and I'll say it again, it was a hot mess. It was a hot mess. And so what I talked about then was this, you know, being in this come to Jesus moment and really making a decision about whether or not I was going to go through with this piece and tour something that I really couldn't artistically stand behind, or whether I was going to put on my big girl shoes and pull up my big girl pants and I was going to go back to the drawing board and engage in my original vision. And I chose to go back to the drawing board. I was, you know, I just want you to imagine, I was $180,000 invested in, and I scrapped it, and said, I'm going back to stage one. And I'm going to honor the original vision for the work that I created. And you want to talk about a moment of reckoning, because the minute that I sort of bit the bullet and said that I was really going to stand for the integrity of the artistic work, all of the support began to surround me. I was able to secure a new director, and with his help, I was able to architect a new vision that enabled us to cut the creative team in half and just kind of streamline. Like, we went lovingly lean in the context of the vision. I flew down to DC. He was directing a work at the Kennedy Center. I held up in a hotel, and at night he would come and we would do dramaturgical work. So I wound up rewriting my entire script over the course of 4 nights, right? So, I mean, really, like, just completely going in. I had an honest conversation with the festival producer, told him the truth, that there was no way that I could present what was on the tape in terms of the world premiere, and that I was completely, like, really scrapping and starting from scratch. And he continued to commit to holding the festival slot, even though he was not able to see what the new work was going to be. You want to talk about risk, you want to talk about faith. And this is a man that I deeply, deeply honor and respect to this day. We laugh about it. Almost 10 years later, right? It's crazy. So, I mean, I just want to give you all set the scene, right? You know, like, I mean, I am going into the grind. And I think about Steve Harvey's quote, you know, the dream is free, the hustle is sold separately. And I want to tell you that your girl was on the hustle, baby. And in addition to sort of all of these moves I was making to kind of create room and develop and sort of build the new structure that was going to support the resurrection of my original vision, I also did something that we actually teach here at Move the Crowd in the Academy. I did something called the CPR, which stands for Context, Purpose, and Intended Results. And for me, it was a process of being able to get very intentional about what I wanted to create. And we use this process to be able to prepare for big events or big meetings or important presentations that we're going to give. And what it enabled me to do was to really come into this next body of work being very purposeful, very intentional, and very, very, very focused. So we arrived on the ground 7 days before we were going to premiere in this renowned festival. And mind you, the other plays and companies, performance companies, had been on the ground for 4 weeks. Even with their plays already done, they had had 4 weeks of rehearsal time, and we basically had 7 days to put it together. And in the space of 7 days, I went through a series of rewrites. I went through new blocking. I went through new staging. I went through rewriting songs and recording them. I memorized my script in progress, which is probably one of the hardest things to do, right? Where you're memorizing and stuff is still changing and you're still having to memorize. I mean, you know, I was in it, right? Interacting with a new set, new lights, new sound design. There was so much to do to be ready. I was running lines in my sleep. I was singing songs in the shower. I was eating notes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, working, working, working. And every morning, I would get up and I would pray, and I would read my CPR. And somehow, in the recesses of my mind, I knew that this was a crucible moment for me, because I had decided that failure was not an option. Y'all hear what I'm saying? How many people just have been in those situations where you know, you can raise your hands, just imagine we can see you, where your back is against the wall and you know you got to bring it. Like, you got no choice other than to produce. And this was one of those moments for me. And, you know, maybe a little bit of it was about my ego, but much bigger for me was the original reason why I wanted to do this piece, why I wanted to create this piece. I wanted to create a space where we could tell stories and really talk openly and honestly about an issue that's very near and dear to my heart, which is mental health. And I wanted to prove that this kind of art, that this kind of creativity, this kind of theater could be viable. And I believe that if I did my part and I put in my full effort and I showed up fully, that the audience would show up to meet me and that the experience would be transformative. And that was what I was betting on, right? There were a lot of things that I could not control, could not control. And I really had to do a lot of surrendering and letting go, right? But for those things that I felt like I could control, it was my right, it was my duty, it was my privilege to lean in and get the work done. And a really interesting thing began to happen, because I knew that, listen, You know, I had to trust that it would go my way, but if it didn't go my way, I had to believe that there was something about who I was becoming through this process, through this journey, that would stay with me long after the applause, right, died down, long after this particular festival was over. And again, it was just a way that I intuitively knew. It wasn't like I had this conscious conversation with anybody, but there was just a way I could feel myself going to a next level in terms of my commitment, right, and my ability. Let me tell you, during this time, I learned a lot about faith. I learned a lot about the depths of my own abilities and capabilities. I learned what it was to be in a real artistic collaboration where there was tough love and there was truth telling. And all of these things contributed to my ability to grow because, like I said, it was all about the task at hand. And it was interesting because, you know, as I was moving around the hallways and preparing, some people, you know, they kind of knew the situation and they were like, you know, go get it, we're rooting for you. Other people were not so politely mumbling about my situation and looking at me sideways, right? There were strange people showing up in my rehearsal room. I mean, it was crazy. But there was a point through my own sheer will and determination that we began to see the show take shape. And mind you, again, I had a great team of collaborators working with me, right? So it wasn't just my effort, but it was a team effort. But we began to see the show come to life. And people began to move from a place of doubt to a place of encouragement. And what I began to feel with every waking moment and every hour that we were toiling and really working to make the show the best that we possibly could was that there was something about the power of taking it in my own hands and something about the power of my willingness to show up. And what I want you all to know is that every day as entrepreneurs in the context of what we're building and as leaders, right, and as people who are parts of communities, right, where people look to us and depend on us, that this act of showing up is an act of love and it is an act of faith. And even bigger than whatever the circumstance may produce, there was something about how we exercise that muscle, how we build that stamina, how we build that discipline that enables us to achieve things that we never thought were possible, right? Never thought were possible. And I can tell you that there was a point in that process and in that journey where I just surrendered. And I just said, you know what? I don't even know what's going to come out on the other side. But my job is to lean in. And my job is to do the very best that I can do. And there was a way in which my commitment, and the director met me in true partnership here, and his commitment inspired the people around us. And the support began to come in, and the amazing interactions and conversations began to come in, and we got more resources, and all of a sudden more tech time appeared. And there was just a way that people galvanized and rallied around the show. And we were able to open the world premiere and do the run in high form. And again, I have to tell you, as amazing as it was, and all of the souls that we touched, and all of the ways that we were able to foster and create safe space for this pressing conversation around this really difficult issue, bigger than all of that was that I somehow through this process grew to another level of self-love and another level of self-trust. And I think for me, that was the greatest success, because that was something that I had been able to take with me and something that I had been able to draw upon as I've been building this company and this movement and this vision. You know, Anthony Robbins was recently interviewed, and he was asked about his divorce and the first time his marriage fell apart. And what he said was, you know, that people can take away everything you have, but they can never take away who you become. And showing up and exercising the muscle of showing up is all about honoring and paying homage to who it is that you are to become. So I want to open it up now, Dana, for questions or conversations. Maybe you have some questions for me to kick it off, or there are some questions that have already been posed. But just what are people hearing? What are people seeing? And where, you know, where do you feel like you're being challenged? I'm really interested in where you feel like you're being challenged around being able to show up. right? In honor of what it is that you know you're here to do, and in honor of what it is that you know you're here to become.
Yeah. Thank you, Ra. Oh, I love that people can, I mean, thank you for the whole story. And just that last, so much of it. So much of it was rich, and for any of us who have been on the journey and been in those places where you're, I think back to, a couple of years ago when I had, or I guess now it's more than a couple, a few years ago, when I left my long-term gig at a nonprofit just as the economy was tanking, and people were like, what are you doing? How are you leaving like a solid job? And I was getting paid to like be, passionate and, culturally disruptive, and yet I was being pulled in another direction. And then I produced that play, actually, that you and I worked on a bit together, The Overcoming Speechlessness, where we did the adaptation and production of Alice Walker's essay here in New York. And there were so many things that you just said, right? The last minute rewrites, we basically had 1 month to do the whole thing. And there was so much growth in that time, because it was all about who I was becoming in that process, and the kind of where I'd felt burnt out for, maybe 2 years at that point, where I had an unending just well of energy. And the director and I were both on juice cleanses, so that could possibly be it too. But
we're going to talk about that. How you prepare.
Totally. So thank you for that. Just that people could take away like what you have, but they can't take away what you will become. It's beautiful. So we have a couple of great questions here and some coming in. So I'm going to start off with one that came in from Kay. So just so anyone knows, when you submit a question, we'll just use your first initial. So how to create a nurturing and affirming sense of self when feeling overwhelmed by the idea of success?
Yeah, so great. So I want to come back to this conversation about, we have a lot of pressure, right? For sort of world domination. There's something about the way that marketing and branding is showing up, right? Where we're in these narratives where, people are going from zero to Zuckerberg, right? That's the joke. And what it has created is a phenomenon where we put this unbelievable amount of pressure on ourselves, right? To get it overnight. Anybody hear what I'm saying? Get it all overnight. And the truth is that if you rush the journey, if you force the journey, right? And I do want to say this, that each one of us is entitled. I want to back up and say that each one of us is entitled to honor and come into the fullness of ourselves. And that bigger than any venture we're building, bigger than any goal we're striving to attain, that the reason why those aspirations exist actually is to support you in becoming, right? There's a famous saying, your soul is a whore for evolution. And so we create products and goals and dreams, projects and goals and dreams to grow us. That our number one job as people is to grow, is to evolve into ourselves. And so when we're starting to feel this overwhelm, very often it can be because we're putting too much pressure on the goal, too much pressure on the destination. And we're not giving ourselves room and space to be on the journey. And the challenge with that is that if we rush it, if we push it, if we force it, one, we sacrifice the quality of experience, right? Where it's painful, it's gut-wrenching, right? We also potentially jeopardize the quality of our relationships. Y'all know what I'm talking about when we get into those places where we're forcing things and the pressure we're putting on ourselves and the pressure we're putting on others. Like, this is where we notice the breakdowns and the fallouts, right? And the arguments that can exist amongst our team or amongst our collaborators, right? But more importantly, that you get to the result and you're not fulfilled. And it is a hollow victory for you because some crucial things were missed along the way. So, the first thing I'm going to say to you is to really recognize and understand that your number one job is to grow. Your number one job is to grow. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to really interrogate into what success is for you. You know, it's easy to chase the shiny stuff, but what does success really mean for you? And what does that mean, particularly in the relationship to the quality of the journey and the depth and the breadth and the richness of the journey and who you're becoming as you are fulfilling on those goals, on those dreams, and on those aspirations? There is no rush. There is no hurry. If you are up to something big, it is going to take time. Let me say that again. If you are up to something big, it is going to take time. And anything meaningful, anything impactful, anything worth doing takes time. So my hope is that you'll keep that in mind and you'll check in around how you want to feel as you're doing the work in the day-to-day, and what's the quality of experience you want to have, and actually let that guide as opposed to what may be like a crazy to-do list that's down the street and around the corner. I hope that was helpful, Kay.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I thought I was on mute there for a second. I was trying to pop myself off. So we got a couple other questions, and some coming through here in the live chat. So y'all can keep them coming. Sorry, I think you all just heard my timer. It is 5 o'clock where I am. So this one's from A. Can you talk about staying in your own power in the face of confrontation, especially when the confrontation is another person?
Yeah, we talked a lot about this last month, right? In this, how do you stand up in a way that is about honoring, right, your commitment as opposed to attacking the other person, right? So A, what I'm going to say to you is, particularly in the context of showing up, is to look at what's happening in the dynamics. And is there something going on in the dynamics that's related to whether, one, you're showing up in a way that you've committed to, right, or you feel is honoring and enabling of your best, or whether the other person is showing up in a way or not showing up in a way that is honoring and enabling our best, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to the agreements. What were the agreements that you made with one another? And in what way are those agreements not being honored, right? So there's an opportunity to realign around the agreements and realign and bring a level of integrity and accountability back into the conversation, right? So that's the first thing you want to pay attention to. The second thing is you want to ask yourself, what is your commitment? And how have you been showing up around that commitment? And how might you show up in this conversation around that commitment that actually inspires that person to get back in integrity if they're out of integrity, right? To get back in alignment if they're out of alignment, as well as reinforces your own commitment to do the same. I'm also going to say to you that that part of showing up, right, and standing up is about speaking your truth, but not in a way that is attacking, but in a way that is really about your commitment to the highest and best of whatever the situation or the circumstance is. These are things that take practice, A, right? So I'm going to say to you that you may need to write this down, like, what is my commitment, right? What are the agreements that we made? Where do I think it went south, right? And how do I continue to hold the vision that I'm committed to in front of me and invite everyone else to the party, right? Specifically that person that you're speaking about, invite that person to show up. What I know is that when I was in that crucible of preparing for the show, I mean, you had no idea, you all, some of the things that people were whispering behind my back and to the left and to the right of me. And I could not pay attention to it because what I knew was that all of that was a distraction. that really the way that I was going to transform the energy and the environment was through the example of how I showed up. Anybody hear what I'm saying? If I was willing to be the example, that everything around me would have no choice but to transform. So you want to speak to it, right? You want to speak to it in the context of your truth, but what you always want to lead with is your commitment, your vision, where you're dedicated, what you're willing to do, right? To make the situation or the circumstance show up or align in a way that really forwards what your vision is and what their vision is. If you don't know what they're committed to, you need to find out. It will be crucial in the conversation. So you may come in asking questions, right, before you start to sort of make accusations, right? So just notice, what is it that you need to understand about the situation or the circumstance, and then lead with your commitment and lead with the example of how you show up in the space so that you're in alignment and in integrity and in full accountability with what it is you said you would do and what it is that you want to achieve.
Nice. Well, you can always do a follow-up question if you have any. Let's see, we're going to move, let's see, this is from Jay. Advice, here it is. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sense of the question here. So, any advice when faced with little to no cash flow? I do trust, and I'm getting creative and working smart and hard. I went all in, and now I'm like, show me the money. How does show up apply when we're trying to manifest, right? Or what we would like to get paid.
When we're working hard and we're not yet seeing the fruits of our labor, how do we continue to show up, right? So there are a couple things I'm going to name here, right? So one of the things I'm going to name is that when you can't see it, right? When you are in it and you're moving, and right, like, and you want to know, Jay, that there was a point in this journey where I was like, I could not see it. I was like, there is no way I'm going to get everything done that needs to be done for the show in the 3 days, right? I'm going to say to you, first of all, if you believe in a higher power or a higher source, I'm going to invite you to become prayerful. And here are the things that I'm going to ask you to become prayerful about. One is you want to acknowledge that you are giving your full effort, and you want to invite the universe to meet you in partnership. Two, you want to ask to heal whatever may be in the way. Because sometimes, even with our greatest effort, there are challenges in our mindset, or there are wounds in our spirit that keep us from, particularly the money. And dare I say, we're going to have time with Barbara soon, in a couple of months, but we're going to really talk about show me the money. But what I want to say to you about, particularly when you're working well and you're not seeing the money, there's the opportunity to become prayerful about what wants to be healed. Because sometimes, even when we're working hard towards our vision, we have not updated our self-image. Y'all hear what I'm saying? We've known ourselves to be the underdog. We've known ourselves to be the victim. We've known ourselves to be the person that's been screwed over but has triumphed anyway. There's a particular narrative that we become very, let me say, seduced by. And it can be very hard to give it up, especially when we're working hard and we're not seeing what we want to see as fast as we want to see it, right? So I'm going to say to you, become prayerful and become purposeful, and notice what is in the quality of your conversation that you are having with you, and also how are you seeing yourself in this? Are you seeing yourself as someone who is struggling and still not quite there? Are you seeing yourself as being separate from the thing it is that you are wanting to achieve? Are you engaging in and recognizing all of the distance you have crossed, all of the progress you have made? And have you updated your file about who that person was when you began and who that person is right where you are now, right? This conversation of becoming. And then are you making choices that really support you in putting your energy in the places that are going to bear the most fruit. And being purposeful and being prayerful and being head down and being committed, like whatever it is that I can't see, right, that may not be healed in me, whatever it is that I keep telling myself that keeps this goal distant from me or separate from me, may it be healed. May it be released. May the pathway be opened up. And if that, you are doing that combined with showing up with your best effort, the universe has no choice but to yield. It's just the law. The universe has no choice but to yield. So I'm going to say pay attention to your internal conversations. Pay attention to the way that you are seeing yourself and speaking about yourself and engaging yourself in relationship to the goal and the aim and the commitment, right? And clean up those old habits, those thought habits, those speaking habits, right? Those ways of operating habits. Continue to do that inner work so that what you're experiencing and what you're forging internally and transforming internally begins to meet you and show up on the outside.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Ra. That was, and thanks, Jay, for asking that question, because I find myself, and I think I notice that it happens mostly when I'm, growing and stretching into sort of new territory and trying something new in the work that I'm doing. I'll sort of find myself making a lot of apologies or sort of, just very subtle, not terribly demeaning, but just little ways that I talk about myself that I think can cut into how I really want to see myself and how I want to be seen in the situation. Because all of us learn. No one comes out of the gate knowing everything there is to know, right? And so to be gentle, too, with ourselves along the journey. And that what I'm hearing is that the showing up is not, it is not just the being bold in what it is we're here to create and showing up, with clarity of vision. I mean, all of these things are important, but also that gentleness of that we need to show up for ourselves. Otherwise, trying to show up for anything else isn't gonna really work that well, right?
And I want to say that don't get mad, right? Because sometimes we can get mad when it's not coming fast enough. And I remember there was a point where literally I was up like 11:30 at night one night, and I was exhausted. Y'all hear me? Like exhausted. I'm running lines. I got a rewrite that's due the first thing the next morning before I walk into the rehearsal room. And I just remembered feeling myself just collapse into a pool of tears. Mm-hmm. And it was that moment where I just looked up and I said, God, your will. I'm clear that there's some excess capacity that you got that you want to give me that's going to enable me to get through, right? And it was, I really got to see not just what I was made of, but I got to see what the universe was made of. Mm. So I also want to say if there's a way that you're carrying this where it's just about you, that you have the opportunity to open it up and really invite in the partnership of the universe to work with you. You pay attention to the details, you do the work that you need to do, you show up for your part, you do your effort, but then you also remember that you're not alone and you can invite in, right, the universe, the creative source, the all-providing source, whatever you want to call it, creativity, love, strength, all of that gets to come and partner and collaborate with you in what it is that you want to achieve.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah. So, Ms. Rowe, we've got another question that came in, and I just want to do a time check because I know that we want to talk a little bit more about what was happening on the 14th and also the Academy? So
yeah. We'll take maybe one or two more, and then yep.
Great. Okay. So, let's see. So this one comes in from D. Hopefully I pulled the right name here, but either way, you'll if you're watching, you'll hear the question. This one was submitted beforehand. I'm at a point in my life where huge transitions and changes are taking place constantly. However, I do feel some blocks surrounding my professional life and therefore some finances. I've noticed a fear of returning to traditional work life. Right now I'm in event productions, but I can feel this current job coming to an end because I really feel an urgency to get working on my purpose. I used to do mental health counseling. And during that time, I believe I picked up fears and beliefs that are no longer serving me, mostly surrounding the system. How can I clear these blocks to channel a career that is of my highest good?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So the beautiful thing, first of all, Dee, is that you see it, right? Is that you know, like, oh, okay, I inherited something, I picked up something that doesn't serve me, and it's in the way of my ability to show up, and particularly to show up for my purpose, right? So the first thing I'm going to say, and you know, we teach a 6-step process for transforming core limiting beliefs, right? And this is what we're talking about. You've got some core limiting beliefs in the house, and you want to clear them out so that you have more room to really nurture and cultivate your purpose, right? So I'm going to talk with you about this on 2 fronts, right? So the first thing is you definitely want to see it, right? You want to be able to have the awareness of exactly what those conversations are that are operating, right? And you want to accept the fact that, okay, on some level, these conversations have been in play. The third thing you want to do is you want to forgive yourself, right? Because listen, you're not doing this on purpose, right? Your fear feels very real to you. And there's a conditioning or a way or a habitual way that you've been thinking or operating or behaving, right, that's keeping this fear in place. But you know that you've got a commitment to transforming it, right? So you want to forgive yourself for whatever you have done or whatever way that you've allowed this to get in the way for you, right? And then your next step is to really create a new vision, a new belief, a new mantra that supports you in moving forward in the context of what you want to build, right? And then you want to begin to take consistent action with the new belief. And this is important for all of you out there who are like, I'm finding my purpose, or I'm trying to find my purpose. You're in the right place, let me tell you. Or I want to nurture my purpose, or I want to step into my purpose. You want to create a belief that really supports you in being able to take one action a day towards your vision, right? So for those of you who are working a day job, you're not at a place yet, right, where your purpose can support you full time, but you know that that's a commitment. You know that that's a vision you have, right? You want to take one action a day towards the fulfillment of your purpose. Maybe it's doing some research. Maybe it's writing a blog. Maybe it's tweeting about particular articles that are related to the conversation you want to be engaging. Maybe it's hosting a circle of friends and actually running them through a pilot version of your workshop. Y'all hear what I'm saying, right? But every single day, you're taking one action towards the new belief, towards the new commitment, towards the new aspiration. And then finally, you want to celebrate. You want to see your progress. Every step, every phase, every effort that you make towards the new vision, towards the new belief, towards the new paradigm, you want to celebrate. You want to honor yourself. You want to see all of the steps that you're taking, and you want to affirm that this is where you want to be. You want to affirm that this is what you're called to do, and you want to keep going. Keep going. So D, one action, you know, again, that 6-step process, and Dana, you can provide them with the link to get more in depth on the 6-step process. D, that's for you, right? I just kind of walked you through it in a very informal way, but I am going to say to you this one action every day that nurtures the new vision and crafting the new mantra, the new belief that you're going to walk with that supports that new vision.
Yeah. And this is excellent work. This is the no joke work, right? And so we do have a 6-step process. And I learned, you know, originally as a coach myself, learned the 4-step process. And I gotta say, these 2 extra steps, really, one of them being celebration, really, really, really important. So y'all watching, whether you're watching now or you're watching this later, I'll do a repost on the blog. So just check out the blog, and you'll see the link to the video that the live chat that we did at some point, I think in mid-2014, around the 6 steps for shifting your mindset, for transforming limiting beliefs, and this is in there. Yeah, Great. So I'm going to suggest that we move to, talking a little bit more about the 14th and a little bit more about the Academy, because the other question that we had was totally answered. I can't imagine that there would be any additional answer than what you just gave. So, so that was a twofer. That was a twofer.
So, what I want to invite us into in our time with Gabby on the 14th is the opportunity to really check in mid-month, right? So if you're applying these concepts and you're working with these concepts, right, I want to talk a little bit about some homework I'm going to give you, right, which includes the context, purpose, and intended results, right, framework I talked about. And I'm also going to give you a little bit, I'm going to walk you through a little bit of sort of my process for how I show up, right? And I want to invite you as homework to start to devise your own rituals and your own practices that enable you to prepare to show up powerfully, whether it's for that big meeting that you're leading or that presentation or that event or that conference, right? Whatever it is that you that are sort of these important, critical events and moments in the context of your journey, that you have a process whereby which you prepare yourself to show up. And then you're going to use your context, purpose, and intended results framework, right, which Dana's going to make available to you coming out of this, right, out of this hangout. You're going to use that as your guidepost for being able to prepare, right? So let me talk a little bit about the context, purpose, intended results, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about my process, right? So the CPR, the context is all about the qualities or essences that you want to embody when you're showing up in the conversation, right? So if I take the example of this conversation, this confrontation, right, this loving confrontation that you may need to have with another person, right, around a particular collaboration or circumstance, right, that's happening. How do you want to show up in the conversation, right? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be love? Do you want to be joy? Do you want to be peace, right? Do you want to be power? Do you want to be grace? And this is really important to think about, you all, because this opportunity to become purposeful about how we enter into things is crucial. I have a beloved mentor and colleague, Lori Hano, who talks about there's something about the way that we begin. There is something about the way that we begin, right? And the attention that we bring to how we begin and the energy of that intention and that commitment is what carries through any interaction, right? So you want to be purposeful in your context. How are you wanting to show up and who are you wanting to be, right? As a way of engaging in this commitment. The second part is your purpose. In what way does this activity, this event, this meeting, this presentation, this circle, this gathering, this workshop forward your purpose on the planet? And let me tell you something, if you are not clear, it may not be for you to attend, right? Now, listen, sometimes we get an intuitive hit about things, and it may not make logical sense to us, but we know spiritually we're drawn to it, or instinctively, intuitively we're drawn to it, and by all means, we want to be obedient there. But where you get a lot of questions or requests or this and that, and you're just showing up and saying yes because somebody asked you, y'all hear what I'm saying? Stop, right? This opportunity to become really clear about how does this event, opportunity, presentation, engagement, gathering actually forward your purpose on the planet, so that you're coming with that context of contribution and you're really clear about what you're wanting to bring energetically and why you're there. Context, what you want to bring, purpose, why you're there. And then finally, the intended results. What are the specific and measurable things, outcomes you want to achieve as a result of your participation, right? So what would you like to get out of that event? Or what would you like to get out of that meeting? Or what would you like to get out of that presentation? Maybe it's a new client. Maybe it's 20 or 30 more people on your email list. Maybe it's 100 more followers on Twitter, right? Whatever the goal or the aims or the aspirations are, you want to have them clearly delineated in your intended results, right? So again, you're going to get that tool. You're going to have homework is to work with that. In my process for showing up, I am very, very intentional, and I've developed rituals and practices that I work with over time, and the CPR obviously is integrated into that. But my first step is to get connected. right? And that's just about me. That's about my own practice, but I get connected to source. Yoga, meditation, stillness, time in nature, time in water, whatever those things are that enable me to internally slow down, right? And get connected are critical. And that's where I begin. Then I get intentional, right? So I go to my CPR, which we just talked about, right? And I use that format to really articulate who I'm going to be, what in what way this is serving my higher purpose, and what are the specific intended outcomes that I want to achieve as a result of my participation, right? In whatever it is. The step 3 is that I do my homework. Whatever research I need to do, whatever conversations I need to have, what is their vision for success, what is my vision for success, I get all and gather all of the intel that enables me and informs me to be able to prepare my contribution in a way that is fitting and that is resonant, right, with whatever is happening. And then I prepare whatever it is that I'm here to contribute, right? So if that's my presentation, if that's questions that are, are engaging in a dialogue, or if that's a performance or a keynote, y'all fill in the blank, whatever it is, right? I then do my work, and I sit in silence before I go into my offering, and I get in touch with Source, and I ask what I am to prepare and how I am to prepare. And then I engage in the work of preparing, right? So if it requires multiple sittings, I create a work plan. I put it in my calendar, right? If it's about that one sitting, then I'm really focused and I'm channeled in and I'm tuned in and I'm bringing everything that there is to bring. And in that case, I'm asking to be a channel. I'm asking, right, to be a container, a receptive container for whatever it is I'm supposed to be giving. And part of my homework is that I'm tuning into my audience. I'm tuning into who's going to be in that meeting. I'm tuning into who's going to be in that venue. And I'm really using an opportunity to viscerally connect so that when I'm asking about what it is to prepare, I have these souls present with me, right? I then go from there to embodying my offering, which is spending time digesting it, working with it, fine-tuning, refining, internalizing it, right? Walking it through. Sometimes I read it through 10, 15, 20 times, whatever may be necessary, where I actually integrate it into my being. So I'm not just sort of reading cue cards, right? But I'm actually integrating so that I can be present as I'm delivering whatever it is that I'm being called to deliver, right? The next step for me is that I rest. Ashe, ashe. I step away from it. I get quiet. I get still. I lay down. I restore my spirit, because I know that I'm going into a giving place. Anytime we're showing up, y'all, and we're showing up fully, we are giving. So if you are tired, stressed, overworked, running late, rushing, all of those things sometimes, right, that can happen to us, we're starting at a deficit, right? So, we want to make sure that the resting enables us to replenish the well so that we step into our space to give. We step into our space to provide and to contribute. We're giving with a full cup. Y'all hear what I'm saying, right? Like my cup runneth over. And so I get to, as my beloved Lisa Nichols would say, I get to pour into you, right? Because my cup is running over. And I've got a lot of capacity within which to contribute, right? So that's what the rest is about. I eat in ways that energize me. My green juice, my salads, my veggies, my fruits. I'm not eating things, hello, sugar, carbohydrates that make me tired. I'm not eating things, you're right, fried foods. Do I need to go on grease and all that garbage? I'm not eating those things because they don't give me fuel, right? They actually draw fuel, sap my fuel. And sometimes I'm called to fast, and then it's just herbal tea and water for me, right? But I'm always listening. I adorn myself accordingly. I spend time in my closet listening for what's the dress code, what are the ways in which I want to adorn, what makes me feel comfortable and in love with me as I'm giving, right? So I don't have to worry about or think about how I look. Y'all hear what I'm saying? But I create ways of adorning myself that feel like a celebration of the occasion and feel like an honoring of my spirit, right? And then I arrive on time, which means for me these days that I arrive early. I give myself space to land, time to be in silence, time to feel into the room, feel into the conversation, feel into the people, right? Times maybe for that last minute reviewing of my notes, right? And then finally, my final step is that I let go and I let God. I have done all of my preparation, and now it's time for me to get out of the way and to let the message come and to let the gifts come and flow. Now, if you don't have a spiritual practice, I don't want you to worry about this. Like, oh, I don't pray, I don't meditate, I don't do yoga. Listen, if this gives you an opportunity to engage these practices, awesome. But I want you to know that brushing your teeth is a ritual, right? So you can create practices or things that you do to help you prepare to show up, and particularly to show up in your fullness. And part of what you want to be exploring are what are the things that really support me in bringing my best, right? Think about the last time you really brought it, you rocked the house. What were the things that were supportive to you in being able to do that? And those are the things that you can incorporate into your ritual. So your homework is going to be to work with this. Dana's going to make all of these goodies available to you. I know, the CPR, and yes, you can snatch my 10-step process, Dana. It's all good, right? And make it available. And you're going to work with this over the next 2 weeks. And what I want to hear from you when we come into the conversation with Gabby on the 14th is what has been opening up? What have you been seeing as you've been in the practice of working that muscle of showing up, right? Building that stamina, building that discipline, building that determination, right, within the context of what you're building and engaging and growing in the world. What has been showing up as a result? And then you're going to ask Gabby questions about how she prepares and how she shows up. And you're going to hear about some of the lessons that she's learned as a result of showing up or not showing up, right? Because we have the other side of that equation as well, right? Those times when you don't show up and the learning is just as great. So that's what you can look forward to on the 14th. And then,
sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say that's already up on the blog there. So if folks want to go, you can head on over to the blog, and that's just movethecrowd.me/blog, and you can see the invite for the special live cast with Gabby and Ra. And these two women, besides being powerhouses, are adorable together. Adorable. Right? So it's like, I don't know, it's like watching like cuddly dragons or something. You're like, whoa, look at all of this experience. And they're just so loving. And so I just feel like that really speaks to the level of like authentic relationship that gets built, you know, in the work that Move the Crowd does. You know, like this is, we show up for our clients, for our entrepreneurs, and it's not just about like moving you through a system and doing some check boxes. This is about being emotionally invested in who you are and who you be, and that the work never stops, right? And that we'll continue to be here with you, right, along the way.
When you are committed to building a purposeful venture, right, which is what we are all about, and what we are dedicated to is helping you to make your purpose profitable, right? When you are committed to building a purpose-driven venture, this work, this building of your internal capacity, the strengthening of your external skills are just as important, right? A lot of people spend a lot of time focusing on the external skills, and we understand that there are knowledge gaps and skill gaps that you must fill, and that is part of what we offer through the work of the Academy. But building this internal capacity, you all, to really be in the fullness of your spirit and to be in the fullness of your contribution is what gives you the strength to go the distance. It is the foundation for your success, right? The vision, mission, purpose, alignment, the foundation for your success. Because when you're clear about why you're here, and you're clear about what your energy needs to go towards, and you're clear about what it is you're creating and where your priorities are, then it actually becomes very easy, right? Very, very easy. So this clarity and the work that we do in the context of the Academy to support and reinforce the foundation of your being so that you can make those tough decisions and you can make those important calls and you can attract that right team are all the things that are crucial to being able to contribute to your success. So Gabby's going to talk about the underbelly of the work as well. I just want to say that, right? So, you know, I think about Rakia, the amazing Rakia Reynolds, woo-hoo, who just slayed it on Saturday. And those of you who were in the house know exactly what I'm talking about. And she talked about this idea that, you know, we hear all the glory and we very rarely hear the real story. Gabby's going to give you the real story, right? So you'll see all the glory because, my sister is incredibly accomplished, but she's also going to talk about the unwritten, the unspoken parts of the story, the struggle, the journey, and really what it has taken for her to build what she's built, right? Because like I said, ain't nobody went from 0 to 1,000,000. I don't care what their marketing says, right? So you're going to get to hear it firsthand. And then, like I said, she and I have a very special announcement for you, and you do not want to miss it. Trust me when I tell you, you do not want to miss this. This is the opportunity for you to have a stellar year on behalf of Gabby and I. So please make sure that you tune in on April 14th for that. Now, the final thing I'm going to say, because I know the Academy registration is almost closing, and if you are new to us, I'm hoping you got incredible value from our time together. The Academy is open. The registration is open only for a few more days. I want to say I think we're closing, or we've extended. That's right. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, we'll see, because we may be oversold here, Dana.
Yeah.
But I do want to say a little bit about the work, right? So our commitment is to serve people who have a contribution to make in the world. And Dee, I'm particularly thinking about you and what you said. That you have a purpose, you have a reason for being here, and there's a way that the fear, right, from past experiences or past jobs or past positions, there's a way that the fear is getting in there, and you're being indoctrinated in ways that are causing you to be stuck, right? And I want to say to you that we exist for people like you, people who are very clear that they've got a contribution to make, and they want the systems, they want the structures, they want the support, they want the customized attention, they want the business model, right? Because we can't be in our highest contribution if what we're building is not financially viable. Let me say that again. We cannot be in our highest contribution unless what we're building is financially viable. So the opportunity of the Academy is this. You get a clear and compelling vision, and in a way of articulating it that resonates and lands with people. You get confidence, meaning you get to really own why this, why now, and why you. You get the strategy for building your pathway to profitability so that your purpose and your profit can be in alignment. And then finally, you get to make the difference that you've always wanted to make. We support you in building the structure for the project, the initiative, and the venture that delivers on your desired impact. So if you've got a contribution to make, you've got a purpose to fulfill on, even if you're not fully clear about what that is, the Academy is open. You have the opportunity to come in and do a strategy session with one of our amazing coaches, and they will spend the time to really get to know you and get to learn more about what you're building or what you want to be building in the world. And then the two of you will listen together in integrity, in authenticity, in honesty about whether or not the Academy is right for you. So I welcome you to take advantage of that if it speaks to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, a little over time. Sorry about that, y'all. We're a little over time.
That's all right. You were saying earlier, your cup runneth over, and so you got all sorts to pour all over. So I have a feeling that everyone who is watching this tonight, whether they started with us from the beginning or hopped in the middle or are watching this weeks, months later from our from this evening, that we were filled. So thank you, Ra, and I just say it's an honor to continue to work with you and with Move the Crowd and this amazing entrepreneurial community that really never ceases to be inspiring. So everyone, check out the blog, check out our site, movethecrowd.me. You can go to our blog, you'll see all of the different things that we talked about tonight, and you can always just click on the little button that says Academy. There are lots of different prompts, and that's where you can find your invitation to sign up for a free strategic consult with one of our coaches. So thank you again. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Simmer in the April theme. We're just April 1st. We got 30 more days to go of showing up, and I hope to see you all on the 14th.
Ashe, ashe. Big love, everybody.
Good night.
Be well, be well.